Have you guys ever heard the term, it's hard to read the label if you're inside the jar? In today's episode, I'm going to talk to Bill Harper, someone who really helped me in the beginning of my journey as a content creator to really define and brand and even understand for myself what I was trying to do. I find the information he gave me extremely valuable in terms of really understanding and simplifying what I was trying to do. It made sense to me, but I couldn't articulate it in a very short format and present it to the audience in a way that they will digest it very easily. When you find out how Bill helped me, it will come out as very obvious. But as I said in the beginning of the video, when you are inside the jar, it's really hard to read the label sometimes. And Bill is an expert at this. Now, this is not an advertisement. This is not paid. There's no, tick for tag, whatever thing. I really value Bill's information, and he's helped me a lot. And I really wanted to talk to him. In the first half of the video, we're going to talk about what he does and how he helped me, and maybe there are lessons that you can learn from that. And also at the second half of the video, we're going to talk about if Bill has any real estate problems, help needs, any issues with anything he's curious about the residential real estate market that I can help with them. These interviews are completely off the cuff. There's no prep involved. We haven't even spoken in a very, very long time, actually, in probably months. So I'm very curious to see what he's been up to and what he's doing. With no further ado, I would like to welcome my branding mentor, Bill Harper. What's up, Bill?
Arvin, thank you. What a wonderful invitation. I so appreciate being here with you live today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, Bill, you were absolutely so in the beginning of my journey. I don't know what happened that you just saw me like frustrated. I don't know how it happened, but I think I saw a TikTok video of yours, which you make great TikTok videos about branding and marketing. And I was like, oh my God, this guy gets it. And I'd come across so many marketing people that I thought 90% of them were great bullshitters. They were really, really great salesmen. In fact, I really think a lot of marketing people are extremely good salespeople, who are more on the creative side. And as important as this role is, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of painting oases in the distance. And
The shimmering oasis of water that doesn't
yeah,
exist.
like just drawing it out in this picture. And I call them philosophers, really. I find a lot of marketing guys just really good salespeople and philosophers. There are very few who really dig down to the core element of a brand or what someone is trying to do and dig out the essence of it. In fact, it's exactly what I like to do in real estate. Like when I analyze these homes, I ask myself, what is the essence of this house, right? And to really understand the house. And you did this um, out of, I think, your own frustration of watching my videos. And you're like, come on, Arvin, this is like, you're like, Arvin, you got to, this is like, you got this. And we can go into it. And I think everyone would be very excited to see. But Bill, would you just give a little bit of a introduction of yourself? Like, where do you live? How you started getting in marketing and stuff, so the audience would get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, so I've owned 5 advertising agencies over the last 36 years. It's all that I have done in my career, and I'm a slave to storytelling. Like I just love it. And the thing that really gets me going is helping businesses figure out how to leverage story to scale. That's the piece, because everybody knows what they are. And what they do is they define themselves, right? We sell great pens. Our pens are made out of plastic and they come in 6 colors and whatever. And that's completely irrelevant. Like nobody has any interest in pens. They can get a pen anywhere. So the whole thing is, how do you find a story for a brand that's interesting? And that's been the pursuit that I've had. And we see success of that all around us. We look at a Liquid Death and we go, oh, wow, they tell such great stories. Or, we look at Dollar Shave Club and we go, wow, they told such a great story. They scaled it to $100 million sale or whatever. And then they go back to their offices and they go, well, what are the guys down the street doing? Oh, well, they're running pricing and promotional ads. So I guess that's what we're supposed to do. And they fall right back into the gutter again. So my job is really, more than anything else, to help businesses figure out what to say to people so that they see their value. And when we do that, both in marketing and in sales, all of a sudden people see them for what they really are. They stop seeing the pen and they start seeing the value that this type of pen brings them. And when that transition happens, and I'll use Dollar Shave Club, right? Dollar Shave Club, nobody needed another razor. There were tons of razors out there, but people were really hacked off about paying $20 for a razor. They thought that was highway robbery. So when someone came out for the little guy and said, don't pay Gillette, don't pay Schick, don't pay $20 for a razor, that's stupid. Pay $1. All you need is a sharp razor. So we're here to say, don't get taken advantage of by the big corporate giants. Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And a mass of humanity saw that simple message and said, that's me. I hate paying those dollars for those big razors. I think that's completely ridiculous. I don't want to do it anymore. And they came and they followed. And once you understand how that construct works, that simplified story, your business scales. And so it is the big transition that's missing from MBA training. And it's what I spend my days doing, is helping businesses see it. And I was pleased to be able to help you see a way to make it happen for your business too, because I think that's the other big piece of it, is people think that it's only for big businesses, and it's not. The companies that became big because they leveraged this. They didn't start leveraging it once they got big. And this is like a massive misperception for the world. So you're living proof that one t-shirt idea can significantly change a person's business. And that's what I'm here to show people.
Let's talk to that again. This is not an advertisement for Bill whatsoever. I'm just fascinated at the fact that how he helped me. In fact, you didn't even charge me. You were just you were. It's just like
it was so right in front of you. It was like, just do this. Like, here you go.
But it was so like to me, when branding works, when the message is delivered in its simplest, purest form in any field, right? In anything you're doing, it could be a video you're making, it could be a relationship you have with someone. You want to define that relationship, the importance of a relationship. When you really like basically blowing off the dust, like an archaeologist, like just getting down to the center message of it. To me, it was like a rebirth, and it was such a relief. Like, like how like my back had an issue, and these videos where they crack your back and makes the noise. You feel like free afterwards. Like, it was one of those moments for me. So I'm very excited to share.
Arvin, I'm the brand chiropractor now.
Yeah.
I love that. The brand chiropractor, Bill Harper. That's awesome. Love it.
But to me, it was such an aha moment. And I so admired your work. And I still follow your videos and watch your videos. And I really think, and then at the same time, he lives in Research Triangle, which is North Carolina. If you know, it's Durham, Chapel Hill, and Raleigh. Yeah. Which is an incredible area for residential real estate, and I'm sure commercial as well. If you don't know, I personally think it's one of those areas that, if it overcomes a few hurdles and possibly not bad recessions, it could really be a mini Bay Area of its own in the future. In the next 30, 40 years. It's showing signs of how Bay Area was created. So I became interested in I was very interested in where he lived, and I would ask him question about like what's going on in that market, and he would share stuff with me. But I kind of want to go over exactly how 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 we started working, not really working together. It was kind of like a mentorship. It wasn't like I was in social media. I was really trying. I hadn't made it big. I had a big TikTok following, right?
Yeah.
You had a very good TikTok following, but I was trying to break into YouTube, doing longer form content. And I really came across as kind of as a hater, as someone who like, like I was trying to, I knew I understood what I stood for myself internally, that people are not being honest. People are not telling you the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of fluff in residential real estate. Everyone is like propping up the properties to be something they're not. No one is analyzing this asset class. Uh, but when I was making these videos, the audience would watch the videos, my early YouTube videos, and you can go see them. There was a little element of this guy's got either beef with mansions, okay, like he's got some issues with mansions. He's like trying to pick a fight with mansions, or he's just hating on people who own expensive properties, which was had nothing to do with what I was trying to do. But it was not easy for my audience to digest where I was coming from, and I couldn't find a way to, I would call myself an analyst, a critic, to kind of to understand that, but I was looking at my point of view. I wasn't thinking what I was serving them. Would you talk into that? How you came with the saying, and I want you to say, I'm not going to say it myself, but how we came up with this phrase, and how you narrowed it down, and you helped me kind of brand myself, so as soon as people log into my channel, they know what I'm all about.
Yeah. So the thing is, you started off with the key ingredient or the key insight, which is really it's practically impossible to read your own label from inside the jar. And that's what people do. They see the world through their perspective, and they don't realize that what they think is important isn't necessarily what's important to the person who's listening. And that's a key tenet that has to be overcome for making marketing work, right? There's sort of a bridge between what's important to you and what's important to them, and there's a Rosetta Stone on how it has to be translated between those two audience sets to make sure that what you're trying to get across actually gets across. A friend of mine once said, and I thought it was very, very apropos of the conversation, there are more ways to misunderstand someone than there are to understand them. And I think that that's a phenomenal synopsis of exactly what I'm talking about. So when you first contacted me and we were talking about your channel and kind of looking at it, I'm watching you review these mansions, and it's like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose? And you started talking about, well, people misrepresent and they do this and they do that. And I'm like, yeah, but why should anybody care about that? And you said, well, I don't want them to get jerked around. Like, I want them to make a good purchase. I want it to be a good thing for them. And I'm like, so you're the how to buy a mansion guy. That's what you do. Like, your whole purpose and what you're doing is, if you are ever in the market for doing this, if you're ready to buy a mansion, if you are already a mansion buyer, if you're doing whatever, then you need to go see Arvin, because Arvin is the how to buy a mansion guy. And that's it. And so what I said to him was, I want you to go make a t-shirt that says, I'm the how to buy a mansion guy, and I want you to wear it on all your videos. And he kind of looked at me sideways the first time, because it was like, maybe that would work, but it's just a t-shirt. Like, what could that do? And what was it, a month or two later, I guess, you contacted me back and were like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
this actually works. And I was like, yeah, because what you do is you short circuit the education process. Like, if I say French fries, you immediately have a red box with a golden arch on the front and a bunch of fries coming out of the top of it, because the brand said, this is all that's important. This repetitious, like, expectation of an experience, right? I'm going to get this thing from it. And what you were missing was the ability to quickly say what your value is. And so the minute that we told the world, hey, you're not watching this to learn about square footage. You're not watching this to learn about where leak damage can happen. You're not watching this to figure out whether you should have marble or quartzite. What you're watching this for is how to buy a mansion. That's the thing. So, hey, we all aspire. So the people who are just viewing, who are like, dude, I can't afford a mansion, but one day I want to afford a mansion. I'm going to watch the mansion guy, because the mansion guy is going to make sure that I know how to buy a mansion when that day finally comes. When my ship comes in and I decide to go get my first, million square foot home, I know that Arvin's got my back and I know what to look for. And that's what gave it grounding. And once your brand has that, once your brand has a strategy that says, look, everything I do is about making sure that you know this thing better than anybody else, and I'm going to make sure that that happens for you. You've changed now from describing what you are into telling a story about how they benefit. And the distinction between defining or describing yourself and just telling a story about how they benefit is the difference between $150,000 annual income and a $10 million business.
100%. So I will tell you guys a little bit about from my perspective, right? So I was very frustrated at the time when people would like say Arvin is a hater. Like there would be some people in the comments who would say hater. I was like, come on, like how could you not see that I want the best for you? Like how could you label this as a hater? How could you why wouldn't you call the person who's analyzing the Apple stock or doing technical analysis on Bitcoin or whatever, S&P 500? How come you wouldn't call him a hater? Like why would you call when I'm doing analysis work for you guys? And some people will be like, oh, you're just hating, you're jealous. Like, come on, like how could you say I'm jealous? So so to me it was so frustrating in the beginning, and I was like, people don't get it. And it was so taboo, and it still is, by the way, what I do, that I really needed help with messaging, and really Bill brought it to my attention. I was like, drowning and flapping my hands, and I just didn't know what to do. But I had major hesitations implementing this too, by the way, because I was like, okay, I don't think wearing a T-shirt that says "How to Buy a Mansion Guy" is really luxury. Okay. And I was, I'm selling ultra. I've already sold at this point when I started my channel $20 million homes. I have nothing to prove to anyone. Okay. I never said I'm like the highest sales agent in the world, but I've already done the work. I've already showed expensive homes. I've sold expensive homes. I've listed expensive homes. I've dealt with celebrities. I've done my hours on the field. Right. So I don't have anything to prove to anyone, but at the same time, I couldn't understand, I couldn't communicate that in an effective way without, I thought that would kind of make it cheesy if I would have this. But when I got to the core of it, I was like, I have to communicate. This is the fastest. And then when you combine that with YouTube retention, how fast you have to grab someone's attention, I was like, this is really makes sense. Now, I don't think I did it in the nicest way. I think we could have done a really nicer T-shirt or shirt and everything, but I was just adamant to get started. And the funny thing is that it worked right away. It worked right away, because I remember within a month or so, in Los Angeles, somebody stopping me and saying, hey, you're the mansion guy. So immediately I was like, holy shit, like it's stuck, it's, I was so, I was so like, I was like, freaking Bill is a genius, right? And I was like, I was so happy. I was like, finally. And then the comments started changing. He's like, okay, he's trying to help us buy a house. We might not have the money to buy a house right now, but if we do one day, he will help us. And by the way, a lot of people do have the money, and a lot of people have joined my inner circle. And I have sold very, very expensive homes from this YouTube channel solely for exactly branding myself the right way, right?
Yep.
Now I don't wear the T-shirt anymore. It's already stuck. Like I already introduced myself, and people know me as the mansion guy. But I still, in every video, I say, Arvin, I'm the How to Buy a Mansion guy. I repeat that phrase. So it lets the audience know, it's like, Arvin's not a hater. He doesn't have beef with mansions. He's here to analyze like an analyst for any other industry, commodities, cryptos, and everything. And it really helped really identify that. Now, Bill, you are full of really good stories. Uh, you've worked with a lot of different brands. You've done really incredible things in your field. Would you share similar stories? Like, let's focus on the branding aspect, right? That first, maybe an example that can also teach people how to identify their brand, what they stand for, and maybe an exercise to go through so they can kind of identify the questions to ask, and then how to kind of simplify that factor and bring it to an element where it could be easily transferable to other people.
Yeah. So the big secret to it is to start with the pain point. And here's why. In order to have a story that people care about, you have to have an enemy. And people equate value to the enemy. So if you try to imagine telling the Star Wars story without Darth Vader, like Luke Skywalker has no purpose. He's just another farmer, right? It's not until you have this enemy character that kind of brings the story along. And so that's where you begin. You take a look at whatever industry you're in, whatever thing you're trying to do, and you say, what is the enemy? And I'll give you a fun little example. We're working with a client that does a golf aid. It's a golf club that helps people better their swing. Now, most businesses try to mask the swing. Like, you think about the Big Bertha, they just made the head so big that it's like swinging a hockey stick, right? So the whole idea is like, we'll ignore the problem. But in this case, they went the other way. They made the club head very, very small so that it exacerbates the problem. This way, you can't escape the flaw. You have to fix the flaw or the ball doesn't go where you want it to go. So we started talking about it, and they, like so many other brands in the world, started off describing their product. You know, we have a great grip, we have great shafts, we have blah, 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 all this crap that nobody cares anything about. Well, when you really think about why would somebody want a golf aid, you go immediately to, I want to play better golf. Okay, that's fine. That's a good first step. But let's go further than that, because the story isn't juicy yet. Why do you want to play better golf? Well, I want to play better golf so I'm not embarrassed when I'm out on the golf course. Okay, a nice second step. Let's push it even further. What else? All right, I want to play better golf so that I can trounce my buddies. I want to play better golf so that I'm a golf god. That's what I really want. Okay, now we're talking. Now we've got something to say that is real. Okay, like, we couched it. We want to play better golf. And then we couched it. We don't want to embarrass ourselves. Okay. What you really want is you want people to go, oh, crap, Bill's coming on. Arvin's coming on to play golf with us. Man, that guy plays great every time. He's going to throw the whole damn game off. That's what you want. You want that reverence. So the whole thing was, we didn't talk about becoming great. What we talked about was, this is what a haters club looks like. Like, if you buy our product, we want you to know to only play with people you don't mind who hate you. That's how you create a great story. So it has to start with, what's the real problem? And you can't just let people answer that wishy-washy first answer that they give you. Oh, I want to play better golf. No, that's out. Okay, why do you want to play better golf? Well, I don't want to be embarrassed. Okay, come on, let it out, right? Give me the answer that you give me 3 drinks in on a Friday night. I want to kick my father-in-law's ass. Now we've got something. Okay, now we can talk about the haters club. Now we can do a print ad where there's 4 people at a dining table inside of a golf resort, where it's a father who's got his arms crossed like this, very angry, and his wife next to him is trying to console him, and the son-in-law and that man's daughter are kissing next to it, and they're looking like they're having the greatest day ever. Anybody that understands golf dynamic is going to understand exactly what just happened. The father-in-law just got trounced by his son-in-law, who wasn't supposed to be better than him. And that's why they buy. They don't buy because of the club. The club is irrelevant. All of us are irrelevant. My business, your business, everybody's business is irrelevant. What you make possible or what you make go away is the foundation of great story. And so when you really sit down and think about it, I would only buy this golf aid so that I could become so good that I could walk on water for golf, which means that I can get these kind of reactions. My wife, my new wife, adores me over her father because I just kicked his butt. All my buddies are burning their golf clubs and taking up tennis because they can't stand to be shamed when I'm on the court with them. Like, that's what we're talking about. And so you have to begin with, what is the pain point that you're making go away? And then everything else goes away. Nothing else matters. The only story that you tell is that pain point. So in your instance, it was, I don't know anything about buying a mansion, and maybe that's a little scary, and maybe like I don't know anything about it. No, Arvin says, I'm going to teach you how to buy a mansion even when you can't afford a mansion. Hell yeah, I'm in. I have no idea whether that skill will ever be necessary. I have no idea whether I'll ever be able to do it. But you know what? I'm going to be at a cocktail party one night, and I'm going to say, I know how to buy a mansion. And everybody's going to turn to me and be like, how do you know how to buy a mansion? And that's social capital. So it doesn't matter how we get to it, but we have to get to the soft, chewy center of why does anybody care? And that's why so much marketing is so bad. When they're sitting there going, we've been in business longer than anybody else. Nobody cares. We've got, such and such pricing promotion. Nobody cares. We've got, the patent on the hinge in these glasses, and nobody's got it, made with space age technology. Who cares? Nobody cares. Now, tell me a story about how I can do this and the glasses don't fall off my face. Or tell me a story about swinging upside down or going into space and my glasses don't fall off. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. My glasses would never fall off again. I get that. I understand the value. When you simplify down like that, then people can see what the value is. And once they understand the value, then they can very quickly decide either, yes, that's for me, or no, it's not. And that's how marketing really works.
And when it works, it's like magic. Again, it's really like the chiropractor moment, it just opens up and you're like, voila, it's like, it's so incredible. I love watching your videos. I think they're so educational. I think marketing and branding done right, it's like watching an incredible movie. It is so beautiful. Like some of these ads that they make and you make, you look at it and it's just so joyful to watch. I'm not surprised where like some of the most amazing ads, like compilations, get so many views on YouTube, because it's a story, right? It's a beautiful story set in a very simple term. And people get it and grasp it and get to it. Now, Bill, we're halfway point. In the conversation. Now, I want to ask you about your kind of life journey and homes, okay, that you've been living in all your life. Where was and what type of a home was the first home you were born into? Do you remember that home? How many years you lived in it?
Wow. So, okay, here's the thing. So my father was a disc jockey, which is a lot like being an Army brat. So we moved every 2.5 to 3 years. So I have been in many homes, many different types of homes. So no, I don't remember the home that I was born in, although I have visited it. And as my dad's career changed and we moved to different places around the country, we had many, many different types of homes. So we were in townhomes. Sometimes we were in colonials. Sometimes we were in contemporary homes. So we've been in a number of things. Even downtown Chicago, we were in a condo for a while. So as they progressed, and of course, as I was growing up and getting closer to college and then leaving home and the rest of it, their needs changed. They moved from the home we had in Evanston down into downtown Chicago in the condo and the rest of it. So we've been through a number of different types of homes. And then the homes that I've owned with my wife and my family as well, which have been several.
So let's talk with that. What was the first home you bought?
I bought a 103-year-old row home in Baltimore for the first home that I had. And boy, did I get an education on that.
How much did you pay for it? What year and how much you paid for it? What was your interest rate?
Let's see. I paid $160,000 for it. And this was in 2000. It's 99 or 2000. I forget now. It was right about there. And I think the interest rate at the time was something like 4% or 3.5%, something like that. I forget. It was not much. It was not much at all.
And how much did you put down? Like, do you remember 20%? Or
no, actually, the first time I bought a home, I did it with a deal that Baltimore was doing to try to get first-time homeowners. So I kicked in $3,000. My employer kicked in $3,000, and the state kicked in the equivalent of $3,000, which allowed me to do a down payment against the house. So It wound up being this program that let me get into the house. And then my payments were like ridiculous. I can't even remember. It was like $900 a month or something. It was cheaper than rent. It was great.
That's awesome. So, how long did you hold it, and what did you end up selling it for?
So I held it, and then I did a contract on it where I held the deed for a gentleman that wound up ultimately buying it. So that wound up being my first investment home. So when
So you did a seller financing?
What's that?
Seller financing? You financed the deal for the next buyer?
Yeah. So
Kind of.
I did a deal. I acted as the bank on his behalf. He paid me. I paid the mortgage. So that was sort of the way that worked. And that arrangement went on for almost 6 years to about an 800 plus a month cash positive on my side. So it was a really good deal at the time for what it was. And then we wound up selling the property to him for nearly double what it was that I had paid for the property originally. So I think it was 168 or 172, something like that. And then we doubled, or almost double. I think we were just under doubling for that. And then
That's
yeah,
amazing.
so
So your ROI, you turned
$3,000
$3,000 to pretty much $160,000.
roughly. Yeah,
That's amazing. That
it
is
was a good.
so
It was a good
amazing.
day. Yeah, it was a good day.
I mean, it's so important to get started in home buying, because what people don't realize is that they think like most buyers go in and buy a $10 million home, and like just it does happen, but typically they're already living in a $6 or $5 or $7 million home. They have $3-4 million equity, and that equity came from the property they owned before. So from $2 million. So if you don't get started, you don't build that equity to move, and it just, now it's become so much harder for people to just get into the game because it's so expensive now. But it's never
Mhm.
too late. I don't think it's ever too late. It just really starts from the time you buy your first home.
Well, and I think the thing that was most interesting for me in that deal was the cash positive that came out of the deal, right? So at a time when we were just beginning our family and we had a young business and we had all the rest of it, we had this extra $800 a month cash that was just sitting there, coming from literally nothing more than holding the deed on behalf of this guy. And it was, was it always smooth sailing? No, there were times, when he would miss a month or there would be a problem with something or whatever, and we kind of have to cover. But in the long run, the amount of money, I mean, that was the most profitable single deal over the period of its time. I bought it right at the right time. I sold it right at the right time. And in the middle of it, he not only paid for it for me, but he also gave me $800 for giving him the privilege of paying for it for me. And as far as I was concerned, that was pretty much the best deal going.
Wow. And then what did you end up buying after that?
So my wife and I then moved into our first like home where we started to have our family. And then when we moved out to California, which was a brief stay, only 24 months, we rented there. But then when we came back,
Where
we
in
bought,
California?
we were in Mission Viejo.
Okay. Okay. Orange
So,
County.
up at the top of the hill, up at where
Yep.
El Toro ends, and then Oakley is, we were right across the street from Oakley.
What did you think of Orange County?
As a Chicago boy, I couldn't figure out why it was so clean. Like, I could not for the life of me figure out where everybody went. Truly, I'm like, where's the graffiti? Like, it was the most manicured place I'd ever lived in my life. I had no idea what was going on. But it was beautiful. It just, I don't know, if you grow up in the city, you kind of need a little, like a certain amount of grit in your life. And yeah, it was like, I've never been to a place where the maids drove nicer cars than I did. Like, it was really weird. So yeah, it took a little getting used to, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then when we came out here, we rented for about a year while we found the right house, and then we bought our house, and we did the exact same thing all over again without having left it. We've been in this house now almost 12 years, and we bought at just the right time in just the right neighborhood. And our
12 years
appreciation,
ago 12 years ago would be what, 2014, 2013?
yeah,
Oh,
13,
that's a great time to buy.
yeah, and the
Do you mind if
property.
I ask how much you bought it for?
Let's see. I think we did 540, and it's worth 1.2 now, or 1.15, something like that. So
Wow.
like, it worked out really well, and it's right across from the pool, and it's in a golf resort neighborhood, and so like it's done its thing.
And how much of
And
that
now,
money, by the way, let's talk about this because I think this is important for people who've never bought a home.
yeah.
How much of that equity came from the Baltimore house?
The
Your
down
down payment.
payment, all of the down payment was literally just a transfer from the other.
Do you guys see how a $3,000 commitment, okay, it turns into over what, probably $1.3 million worth of equity,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, and people don't do it because they're worried that it won't work or that it won't. And I think that that's a fair request or a fair concern.
Mhm.
But what I have experienced is that the market's a cycle, and if you just pay some attention to where the cycle is, you don't have to be, reading a crystal ball to get a sense of where it's going. But I think that you can make smart investments, and I think that if you hold the property, I think the biggest regret that I have, honestly, is that I didn't hold that property in Baltimore. I am much more at this point a hold and never sell mentality than I am a hold and flip mentality, because I've just seen how much appreciation can actually come. Had I to do it over again, I would have kept the building in Baltimore and continued to rent it, and I would have just continued to buy and rent and buy and rent and buy and rent over and over again.
Yeah, I think I have the same mentality, and especially with the mortgage rates being low, I would like to never sell. And with the new tax incentives that are in play for 2025, you're getting such great accelerated depreciations that it really makes sense to, if you can afford to have the down payment, to rent your current home, take that depreciation, and then move to another property. Yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, now, Bill, are you in the market to purchase something? Maybe a vacation home? Are you at all interested in purchasing another? What's the
Not
plan
at
for
this
the next?
particular moment, but I'll tell you when I will be is when my first oldest child goes to college, because I see no reason whatsoever to pay for rent in a college town. Instead, I would much rather buy a property and have them rent it from me and have it be paid for. So that will be most likely the next big thing. And then once all three of them are through college, then it'll be a question of, how to begin leveraging property. And I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people don't talk about nearly as often as they should, in my opinion, is the use of Airbnb and things like that to do supplemental income on properties that you live in. We did that when we were traveling for business a couple of years, and were able to create, really in a month of renting, probably 2.5 months of mortgage coverage, just by having people come in. And you screen, right? So you're looking for people that match the kind of visitors that you want. So we would have people that were in for weddings, and it was, the family that was going to be staying, or it would be this kind of thing. And, we would be out of town for a week or a long weekend for a business trip somewhere. And we would just invite people to come in and use the property. And it wound up being an incredible deal for us. I mean, we did so well on it. They really enjoyed what they had. They had access to all the amenities and things in the neighborhood that they were really excited about. We got access to not losing money. It oftentimes paid for the trip and more. And so, it was basically like converting the house into the money for the travel. And we did that for a couple of years. It was great.
Amazing. That's really cool. Again, there's so much you can do with your residential property, and a lot of people are not really, capitalizing on it. Like, as far as, I think house hacking is really important. It's really interesting that you want your daughter to start house hacking the first property as your investment property there for your daughter is a great idea. I know my wife, when she went to college, she rented a room from her best friend now, that they bought the house, and they rented each room to all the roommates, and the roommates still to this day are best friends.
Yeah.
And we hang out with them all the time. But it was what one of the roommates' father did. They bought a house, they rented out the rooms, paid for its mortgage, and they basically made money while their kid was going to school, which is tough for parents to finance all that expense and everything. So it's very, very smart way of doing it. That's awesome. Now, let me ask, does anybody want to ask Bill a question or me a question? If you guys have ask any questions to us, you're more than welcome to ask us. And I would like to answer that. Or if it's for Bill, Bill can answer that question. Meanwhile, any new brands or exciting projects you're working on, Bill?
Yeah, we have all kinds of stuff. We just picked up an international brand in the personal protection space, which is really
Personal
interesting.
protection.
And
Okay.
they just purchased Honeywell's personal protection area. So it's this bringing together of these two corporate giants, which is really fun. And it's provided me an opportunity to go over to Germany for the first time. So that's really interesting. And
Cool.
a distillery company that we met with in Australia was good enough to have me come and be the keynote speaker for the Australian Distillers Conference several months back. So I had an opportunity to go and speak out there, which was really nice too. So I hadn't been down to Australia yet, and I got to go to Gold Coast and Sydney and Byron Bay, and it was absolutely beautiful country, and just it was fantastic.
Okay. Bill, we have a question.
Yeah.
What architectural style does Bill like the most? What's your favorite architectural style?
Let's see. Architectural style. I'm a sucker for the old colonial houses. I think that they're beautiful. But I also have a soft spot for modern interpretation. As a designer, I really like the modern twist on an old thing. So I kind of like seeing a little bit from of influence from the designs of the past, but with a new flair. I think that those are kind of fun. And as I mentioned about owning the 100-plus-year-old house, there are certain things that come with that old world charm, like, you know, them not making stems and bonnets that fit your showers any longer.
Yeah.
So there are things that you kind of need to pay attention to in that respect. I like that one second down center on the left-hand side. That's pretty
This
house.
one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a
Ooh,
beautiful
you
home.
like those sunrooms, huh?
I do. I love those. Those are beautiful.
So tell us, what are the like to go to architectural style in Research Triangle? What's like the most common architectural type that you see there?
You know, I would say that there is a lot of colonial here, actually. There's a
Mhm.
lot of new construction as well, but the classic homes that are here are very much this kind of feel, which is part of why we like the area so much. It's
It's
just
so
a
interesting. It's to me,
beautiful
it
look.
screams America. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
it is such an American design, and I don't know if it's because of, you know, what's it called, the Home Alone
Oh,
movie.
yeah, for sure.
You know, that probably has something to do with it, but it is, yeah, it's such a soothing home, which I love. I love I think for primary resident, these you know, colonial Georgian style homes are so charming. They seem so family friendly, even though some of the layouts could be a little bit room to room at
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
but but it's very interesting. Okay, do you have another question?
Yeah.
Where's a good place to stay that where is it? Um what
Where's a good
neighborhoods do
place
you
to
like?
stay in the triangle?
Yeah.
Probably either, and this would just be a quick thing. If you like the food scene, I would say go to Durham
Mhm.
and take a look there. Durham has a really fantastic walking area and food scene that's a lot of fun, and easily in a 15-minute walk, you could go from an amazing tapas or steak restaurant to the DPAC, Performing Arts Center to catch a game with the Durham Bulls. Like you could do all of that in a 15-minute walk downtown. So it's a really phenomenal place. And all of it is centered around the American Tobacco campus, um, which is where they used to do the processing of tobacco here. That's all been converted into a working area. So there's now like 50 or 60 businesses that are all as a part of that old campus that's been converted to old warehouse space, and it's absolutely beautiful. The other place that I would say to go would be Chapel Hill, downtown proper, which is steeped in history, and is the home of UNC Chapel Hill, and is just a beautiful place to be. So Let's see. Ricky says, how do you convince a brand to pick your marketing agency? Well, number one, I don't like to convince anybody of anything. I think if you're in a room where you're trying to persuade somebody, you're in the wrong room. So the hope is that by showing them what it is that we do and by taking a look at their current situation and talking about how they can move their business forward, we show them enough advantage that they say that they'd like us to help them realize that advantage. And that's really what we spend our time doing. So that's why TikTok is such a big part of it. It's not presentation in the classic sense. It's not like, we banged on their door until somebody did an RFP and then we go to the pitch and all that. Now it's we share information. And then when somebody has a problem with something, much like Arvin did, and says, hey, I've just got a question. Do you have an opinion on this or do you see an insight on it? We're able to reach back out to them and say, yes, absolutely. And let's jump on a call and talk about it. And that typically opens the door.
I think one thing people misunderstand about kind of social media is they again mostly less affluent people think very wealthy people are like aliens and they don't do regular things. In my experience is like they think they don't watch YouTube or they don't watch TikTok. It's like, oh, he's a billionaire. Why would he watch it? He's still a human,
Yeah.
He-
Right. He gets bored just like everybody else does.
Yeah, and they get bored just like anybody else, and they do the same thing. And I think a lot of people, um, um, from this channel alone and from my TikTok, I've got a lot of customers, which a lot has helped with the proper branding. That hey, like if you want to plan to buy a mansion, I can help you. If you want to build a mansion, I can help you. If you want to design a mansion, I can help you. If you want to remodel your property, I can help you. Right. So I think people underestimate how many clients you can get online. I mean, I have an inner circle that we have a lot of people in there, and it's growing really fast, and it's very helpful, and it's really fun. I was just helping a client in Japan. I have two clients in Japan. Okay, so which I would have never thought I would have a client in Japan, but I was helping them with. Like I went an hour extra on my inner circle. It's normally 1 hour, but I went 2 hours because it was just so interesting. It was so fun to solve that problem. So we just stayed on longer and longer, and we did. But if you're planning to market yourself, because I think Bill said it exactly. If you're trying to convince someone, you're not in the right room. Like or I say, if you're explaining, you're losing. Okay, what social media, at least not in the TikTok dance format, but in educational form, enables you to do is show your expertise, share your expertise for free. And I know I get so many comments like, Arvin, you sharing so much of your knowledge, and that's what you have to do, and it feels good. And by the way, by the process of teaching, you learn. It's so much more to be comfortable enough to put a video out there that you have to stand behind. You have to really do your research. You have to understand. You have to be confident. And you make mistakes sometimes and you learn from them. But you become better. You demonstrate to other people that you know what you're talking about. And by, especially like in my niche, someone might ask us like, Arvin, do you consider yourself an expert? I say, yes, I do. Because I've done the homework. You can go on my channel. You can see, beside the fact the homes that I've sold and bought for my clients for many years, I've researched and researched over, probably 1,500 homes and made videos for maybe 700-800 homes. So yes, show me one other person anywhere who's done that. Okay. Find one other person who has proof that he's an analyst, he's actually done the work, he's done his research, he's created content and shared it for you. So by default, I can't even find anyone else in my field who does it like I do. So I think it's very important, and the audience is there. The very wealthy people do watch YouTube, they do watch TikTok, and in fact, I'm showing a house in about hour 30 minutes, a $30 million house in LA. From a direct client from YouTube, direct. So when you think it's they don't watch. You're just you either you've not met that many wealthy people, or you just idolize them and you think they're like something they're not. It's just they have more zeros in their bank account. Totally human, you know.
Well, I was amazed this last year. Shannon Klingman from Lumi Deodorant was a TikTok fan, and it wound up leading to us working together, which was a really exciting adventure and a lot of fun to work with her and her team. And you would never think somebody that was the CEO of a $500 million company would just be hanging out on TikTok. But she's like, I watch your stuff all the time. I watch your podcast. Like your knowledge about this is valuable, and I always learn something. And eventually she was like, let's talk. So I think that that's tremendously valuable on a number of levels.
And if you're scared of sharing your knowledge, I can tell you that I teach, like I have a live seminar I've done twice. I'm doing another one end of the year. And I teach everything. I teach the 10 principles, everything, right? I teach everything I know to everyone. I'm not scared. The fact is that I'm still like, you can still know everything I know, but if you haven't practiced it 1,500 times, you're not going to be as good as me. So you can learn everything from me or Bill, right? That's why like Bill teaches, he shares everything. He would tell you how to do it. Okay, go do it, right? But at the end of the day, you don't have that repetition of muscle exercise that Bill has had. At the end of the day, when you start doing it, you're like, you have 200 other new questions that you would need answers to. And then, so you might take one step, but you open up a whole wide network of questions that you need to answer. And then you're like, well, let me go back to the expert and get help from them because they've done it many, many times over. So I really encourage you, guys, if you're an expert in any field, if you've done your 10,000 hours, or even you're on your way to mastery, by creating content on it, you even become better. I think I'm so much better than the first video I've made. Just so much more knowledgeable because I made more videos about it, right? So I think those are really, really important factors.
Arvin, thank you so much for having me. I've got a meeting that's starting in 5, so I've got to jump, but I so appreciate this. It was so much fun.
Bill, Bill, we're going to put your information, your website. Again, this is not an ad. Okay? Bill is not paying me anything for this. Okay. I just, and I'm not getting kickbacks or commissions, any of that. Okay. He's helped me. He's really, really helped me. He didn't even charge me anything. He just was frustrated with the fact that I couldn't figure it out and felt sorry for me and helped me out. And I always find him interesting. His TikTok channel is amazing. If you're interested in branding, check it out. He also has a podcast. You can also check that out. He's just, again, I've found very few marketing people that really get it and have that. They're not fluffing stuff. They're not making up shit. They're not painting crazy pictures for you. They really get down to the bottom of it, figure it out, and tell a really good story. So if you're interested to learn more from him, he has a ton of free content, like hundreds and hundreds of videos that you can go follow and check out. Do that. And I want to thank you for coming on, Bill. And with that being said, I will see you guys next week, next Thursday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, Bill.
Take care. Thanks, Arvin.